Pastor wanted me to share this. I wasn't going to say anything, and I never like getting up in front of people. I like the one-on-one thing, but I do the best. Even though I know you guys really good, it's a little more difficult for me. Maybe it'll get easier in the future, but I see it will get easier. We went to a meeting Pastor had, Midwest Ministers Fellowship, is that right?
Right.
And I had got a call Thursday, and I don't know, it was probably late in the afternoon. It might have been 6. I think Carla was home. It might have been 6, 7 o'clock, and said, my brother called me and says, he always says, Pee-wee, he said, Kathy's in the hospital. And so I wasn't real alarmed because Kathy had been in the hospital a lot, last few years. And Kathy's my sister. Kathy's my friend. Keep plugged in here, Pastor. And so I wasn't really very alarmed about the situation. At the time, I felt a peace about it because he said, when he told me that, he said her heart had stopped. She went in cardiac arrest and had died in the ambulance because he had went over there to see her, and he said, you got to go to the hospital, So she died in the ambulance, and so I didn't really think a whole lot about it, and I felt they thought there was brain damage. He said they're thinking there's brain damage because she had died, And so I was at peace with it. And even the next day, we went to this Midwest Ministers Fellowship, and I still was at peace with this. I didn't feel that God. I said, God's got his hand. There's no brain damage. God's got his hand on her. It's just what I said to myself when I was sitting there thinking about it. And so Carla and I got to go to the hospital. I think it was Saturday. Carla, was that Saturday? Was it Sunday? Friday. Okay. Well, anyway, what I was going to say was I tried to get hold of Pastor, and Pastor's phone happened to be in the car, and I didn't have Yvonne's phone number, so I thought, well, I'll call Keith, and I didn't have Keith's phone number. I didn't think of my phone, but I did. And so Carla called Kim, and so I could have them guys to pray for my sister, So anyway, we went to this meeting, this fellowship meeting, great speaker, and I just felt at peace there. And we learned so much, it just amazed me, It's Friday night. Okay, well, we stepped into the ICU, and Carla's got a real distinctive voice. You can hear Carla from anywhere in the building, which is great. I think it's great. She took after her dad. Her dad had a really boisterous voice, and I thought, well, my sister probably don't know I'm here, but she knows Carla's here. Okay, now she was heavily sedated. I had this little lady explain to me, her name's Crystal. I said, I want you to show me what these machines do in here. Because they had all kinds of tubes, ventilators. She had the ventilator on that was breathing for her. And I said, show me what all these do. And so she was explaining it to me. And, of course, Carla was talking over there. And all of a sudden, my sister was heavily sedated. And this nurse is an RN, and she knows what's supposed to be and what isn't supposed to be. And so all of a sudden, my sister started moving around, heavily sedated. She was out. They had her in like an induced coma, whatever they call that, And so she heard Carla's voice, I guess, because she started moving around. I said, well, I watched her, and I said, well, I think the angel of the Lord's here. So in my mind, I was thinking this. And so she started moving around, and she kept, hearing Carla talk, and she heard Carla's voice. So we don't have permission with the HEPA laws to get any information, because she couldn't tell us. And we sat there and talked to her. Said, well, what's wrong with her and all that? She couldn't tell us anything. She just felt so bad about it. She says, well, her son and her daughter-in-law we're able to tell them, but they're not in the condition to relay it to the family. They have some addictions and problems. So Carla says, well, I usually always get permission to let the family members know how she is or what her condition is. And so my sister woke up and looked over there, and all of a sudden Carla walked over and says, now, open your eyes now. And so she opened her eyes and looked at Carla. And so this little nurse immediately went over there and says, will you give Carla permission to tell about your, what your situation is here, and give her the permission to do it by the HEPA laws? And she said yes, and they would ask her, and she'd ask her certain commands, and she'd shake her head yes. This is she was out. There was this had to be God. We were watching a miracle. I said, we're standing here watching a miracle. This little nurse, look, but when she went over to talk to her, this little nurse started crying. And I thought, wow. I said, wait a minute here. Now I got to hold my stature here. I can't be crying, because she could see. I said, boy, we serve an awesome God, don't we? And Carla started talking. We started talking about and praising the Lord in there in this ER, or not the ER, ICU. And so she gave Carla the permission, or give the nurse the permission to do this. And so I said, this is just a miracle of God, Carla. I says, we're witnessing right here. We're standing here. And so, and then when she got to tell us what was wrong with my sister's a really bad diabetic. And she has an addiction, and it's food. She loves food. My sister, especially sweets. She is her blood sugar was 1,325. And it's been this way 2 or 3 times in her life, and she's always running between. Last week they said, well, the week before she went in the hospital, 2 weeks, she ran 300 to 500 blood sugar all the time. And her body was actually, she was dying at her apartment where she lived because she started, having trouble. She was throwing up and stuff. Her body was shutting down. Her kidneys shut down. And when she died in the ambulance, her kidneys shut down and her heart shut down. I mean, it just stopped, And so she got to tell somebody. She said, this is not normal, this little nurse. And she was just so astounded at what was going on there, and crying too, and said that, these blood sugars are just